Hello, 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 hello. Welcome to Radio Free Wall Street. And this is a weird show. I'm in a weird place. I'm very troubled about Donald Trump, as always. And this time, it's more revealing than usual. Let me explain what I mean by all this. Donald Trump is a master at spin. He is dividing the country. It was up to him there would be no free press. And he's moving in directions I regard as extremely dangerous, and he becomes more, off the tracks, more insane with every passing day. And the reason why is that he's losing cookies. He is absolutely, positively trying to survive what is a crisis in the White House. And the crisis is based very simply on the fact that Donald Trump moves daily closer to an impeachment. And as he feels the pressure, he gets more of a nutcase. And I have to tell you, I'm very concerned about at some point what he will do. Now, Trump's problems are this. He now admits that there was a meeting in the Trump Tower, and that his son was at that meeting, and the meeting was to get dirt on Hillary Clinton. But now, after saying it was about orphans, his son said it was nothing but confirmed that. They now admit to it, well, yeah, maybe the meeting did have something to do with Hillary Clinton, and maybe we were out of control, and maybe there's a problem. But there was no collusion. And so I'm at the point where you sit there and you go, holy shit, Donald, what will you do to this democracy? What will you do to this country to save yourself? How far off the tracks, how far insane you will go? And I got my answer. Donald Trump tweeted this. He said, the fake news hates me, saying that they're enemy people only because they know it's true. I'm providing a great service by explaining this to the American people. They purposely cause great division and distrust. They can also cause war. They are very dangerous and sick. That's not the media that's doing that. That's Donald Trump. I want to be on the record here. Donald Trump is the most dangerous man to ever occupy the White House. He's the stuff dictators are made out of. He's the stuff that police states are built upon. He is the type of man that will use any excuse to seize power, keep power. He's sick. He's out of control. He's unfit to be president of the United States. He's a danger to mankind. And this investigation is making him crazier by the day. I fear for America. I fear for democracy. I fear for the freedom of the press as on a daily basis he attacks it. I fear that simple-minded people are buying into this bullshit and that the outcome of this could be disastrous for everything that you know and love and everything that's important to America. Now, if you are smart enough to understand this, then you're smart enough to be gravely concerned. I find Donald Trump's constant attack on the media a very serious and dangerous thing. I regard Donald Trump as a complete Looney Tune. I regard him as about the most crazy, out-of-control president we've ever had. And I believe it will be economically disaster for America just if he follows the present trajectory. His Trump tax break plan for billionaires is a disaster. He has caused a budget crisis. Treasury now is increased to $1.33 trillion, the amount of money they need to raise. It's an unprecedented amount in such a short order for the rate of increase. And it will lead to further malaise in the economy. Now, the other problem we got with Donald Trump is that the media is the great safeguard of our freedom. To not understand this leashes forces that every dictator loves, and that is a media that's under attack. That is a media that's hated by the people, and that is a media that at some point they get around to silencing. And very quickly, by the day, Donald Trump moves down that road. I again want to say to you that I am extremely concerned about Donald Trump. It is now pretty obvious that he is out of control. It's pretty obvious that he hates America. He hates our freedoms. He hates the investigation. And more than anything else, this is a man who hates the truth. Now, I watched the corruption of Tricky Dick, and he was very troubling to me. But Donald Trump gives the new meaning to an out-of-control president that cannot be trusted. Donald Trump is a man who I believe will go down in history as the worst president we've ever had. I believe the American public will suffer terribly under Donald Trump. I believe he is a threat to democracy. He's a threat to everything that's right, everything that's good, everything that's important in the world. And I believe that we are going to suffer greatly in the coming weeks and months as the hypocrisy, as the desperation of Donald Trump becomes more apparent. Now, I have to admit that there is a great deal of money to be made in that. And I have to admit to you that I relish that. I have to admit to you that Donald Trump is bringing a crisis a week to America. I fear that the trade war will get out of control, but I also fear that Donald Trump, in his desperate fight for survival, will cause actions that could get us into war. And it's not the so-called fake media that I'm worried about starting the war, but the most powerful man in the United States, who is literally out of control, who is literally a madman, who is a greatest threat to himself and America as any leader we have. I can no longer be silenced about this. His attack on the press is an outrage, one of the cornerstones of our democracy. His lack of ability to understand the issues of the day, his unwillingness to cooperate, work with anyone, his lack of knowledge is appalling, and his agenda is ridiculous. This is the man the American people have chosen, and all I can say is God help us all. Donald Trump will end in disaster. His attack on the media is a daily outrage, and it grows in ferocity on a daily basis. It becomes, how can I put this? It becomes obviously a graver danger to our freedoms the further he goes along this route of trying to survive by destroying everything in sight. He is reminiscent of the fascists of the past. I have seen the media destroyed, press offices closed. I've seen members of the press persecuted, killed, jailed. And I've seen this in vile dictatorships. I myself have suffered attacks under my press freedoms, and I can tell you that it is an ugly thing. I can tell you that there's little you can do when these attacks come. And I can also tell you that the free press and the balance of power that keeps the press operating is a very delicate one indeed. And our freedoms hang in the balance. with men who always try to destroy them. And I regard Donald Trump as a destroyer of freedom. I regard him as a grave threat to democracy. He has now crossed the line and proven to me that this is a man that cannot be trusted. This is a man who's a traitor to America. This is a man who has been compromised and sold out the Manchurian candidate for sure by the Russians. This is a man who, from his tax plan to his fighting with NATO, to his trade wars, to his immigration policy, to everything he touches that turns to shit, is a disaster. And this is a man who is riding a wave of populism that is often seen in dictators who cater to the masses' fear of the future, who cater to confusion, mistrust, and gain and cling to power by divisiveness. And that's Donald Trump. And I have to tell you, I believe he's going to end up in a disaster like never seen before. I'm appalled at how the media sucks it up. How, although they're fake media, they do not call a spade, and the media does not unite against Donald Trump. Fox News, of course, excluded. And it shows you how, under one of the more severe attacks I've ever seen in the media, that they don't even understand the crisis they are in as we speak. You know, I've often wondered how dictators came to power, how the masses could be so easily fooled, how genocide and war could occur. And I guess I gave people more credit for a hairy set of balls, for courage and strength. And I can tell you, I've never been more disappointed in our leaders, including members of the Republican Party. I've never been more disappointed in the press. In a lot of ways, Americans deserve the poverty, the riots, the death and destruction that Donald Trump is going to bring them. I'm going to repeat that again. Never has a country more deserved to become impoverished than America. They have bought lie after lie that's caused them to be a consuming machine based on debt. They are electing vile leaders like Donald Trump. And rather than rising up against a mistake, they're allowing this man to divide the country. They are allowing him to stay in power without demanding his impeachment. And the majority of Americans are so simplistic in their mental attitude, in their worldview, in their comprehension of events, that they can't see through this guy. They cannot see what he's doing. Oh, my God. Donald Trump will end in a disaster personally. He will end in a disaster for America. He will truly throw America into depression. And let me tell you, coming out of the depression will be something worse. Coming out of the depression will be the most oppressive government on earth. Americans will lose their freedoms. Artificial intelligence will run your life. It will be a rules-based society where people will be able to go to jail for their thoughts, or for their GNA, or for their profile by artificial media. And we are coming upon a world where there will be no human rights. There will be no ability to get ahead, to leave your class structure. And we will have class warfare. And we will have a polarized society where the very few ruling elite will have everything, say everything, own everything, do everything. And the control of government on the American people will be absolute and complete. And this is because, very simply, they bought into a Donald Trump. It is an outrage. It is a travesty that a man like Donald Trump can rise to power, maintain power, be popular, and still be sitting as president. How in the hell does this happen? How does such a man, such a monster, achieve power, maintain power, confuse so many people? And I guess it gets down to the fact of complacency. I guess it gets down to the fact of lack of real education. I guess it gets down to the fact of lack of real leadership. Politicians, especially Republicans, are so desperate to get in power and maintain power that they can not stand up against Donald Trump, that they will sit here and let this happen. You know, one of the few great Americans that has stood up against him is McCain, who were losing. And I wonder what America look like when the last man with brains and balls and the courage to stand up is leaving us. It's almost like God has left America alone. Who is the leader that will step in the vacuum and say Donald Trump is wrong? Donald Trump is a liar. Donald Trump is a menace to society. Donald Trump is destroying our freedoms, our economy, our way of life. He's making enemies of our friends, and he's befriending the most vile dictators in the world. How can we be so lucky, so unlucky to have a man like Donald Trump? How can it be that Americans have fallen for this? How can it be that so easily a man like Donald Trump can seize power and take away our freedoms? God must hate us. From the religious community to the judiciary to the business people who know what's going on, there is no uprising against this man. There is no one standing in the gap clearly saying that this is a dictator building a power base. This is a man destroying the institutions of freedom. This is a man that is dividing the country. The crazies in the school shooting, they're a symptom of the hatred that Donald Trump is brewing. Soon there will be attacks on the press, you mark my words. Soon there will be more polarization among ethnic groups, among economic lines. And just this weekend, I think I've heard that we had 80 murders in the city of Chicago. Where the hell is Donald Trump? Where are our leaders? Okay? We are letting, Chicago become another Mexico. Why isn't the federal government in there? Why isn't there patrols on every corner, every street? Why aren't there raids on the projects, routing out the gangs and routing out the drugs? Because we're chasing somebody who wants to clean our toilet? Because we're chasing immigrants that have been here for years? You heard the story about the man who served 3 tours of duty in our military and was deported. Where is Donald Trump standing up saying thank you for our service? Where is this man who's supposed to be the champion of the little guy, who is only manipulating the little guy for his agenda? Donald Trump was a failure at every business he ever opened. Donald Trump relied upon money laundering. Donald Trump, if he had not been elected president of the United States, would be facing bankruptcy right now. And no one's telling the story. How can this be? How can this be that no one stands up and said, whoa, wait a minute. You told us that that meeting with your son was over adoptions, not collusion with the Russians. How outrageous. Shame on you that you now admit that it was about dirt on Hillary and that you and your son lied about it. How can American people have this man stand before a microphone and say he had the biggest landslide ever without people standing up and saying, bullshit, you won by a very slight electoral college lead. You lost the popular vote. How can he stand up and say it was the biggest inauguration empty when the Washington Mall was half full of people? Where is the leadership? Where are the people in position of power challenging this? Where is the Republican Party standing up and saying, this man's out of control? Why aren't the leaders of the Republican Party in the White House right now saying, stop tweeting, end this shit, testify, or we're going to move against you? How sold out are our leaders that all they care about is the next election, all they care about is the spin, and they don't give a shit? We are brewing hatred. We are forgetting our principles as the beacon of light in this world, the refuge place for the oppressed truly, and no one says shit about it. In fact, they cheer his vile hatred. Donald Trump is full of hatred. Listen to me, if you're not a blue blood, part of the ruling elite, he hates your guts. Don't let him shit you. I am sure after he hugs the factory worker, he goes home and takes a shower. Probably burns the suit. Look at his face. That is not a face of passion. That's a face of madness. Look at what he says and what he does. This is a man that destroys everything America believes in. And I'm warning you, this will end very badly, you fool. And if you can't see this, then you don't deserve your freedoms. If you can't understand the fake economy, the lies from Wall Street to the mutual funds, to the retirement funds, to the financial system that is absolutely out of control, then you deserve your poverty, and God will grant you that. God, I know this about him. God loves truth. God loves right. And God eventually punishes the Adolf Hitlers and the Mussolinis and the Donald Trumps of this world. Donald Trump is not a great American freedom fighter. He is not a great conservative. He is a vile animal who is seizing upon any theme, any slogan, any good copy that gives him power and moves him ahead. He doesn't give a shit about anybody or anything. And the first victim of a man like Donald Trump is truth. And the second victim of a liar is prosperity. And we are headed down a road where America will be punished severely. Our economic devastation is on the near horizon. And like I said, if you can't see it, if you can't feel it, then you're blinded and you're cursed by God. But there are a lot of you out there who know something is wrong. There are a lot of people out there who see that this is out of control, and I think you're one of them. And I implore you, I beg you, to defend your wealth, defend your freedom, capitalize on this insanity so you can do some good. It will do no one any good for you to go down with the sinking ship. And maybe a remnant can rebuild America. When the depression comes, and it will come soon enough, when the banks collapse, and they will collapse, when the majority of companies on the S&P 500 go broke and stay broke, when 3,000 or 5,000 banks close down, when streets are not livable in the cities of America, but become armed camps of violence with the blood flowing like water after a spring rainstorm, you'll remember these words. And just maybe at that point, Americans can seize back their country, reestablish their democracy, root the corruption of the ruling elite from the financial system and from the politics, and demand honesty and truth. When we can excuse a man who lies for breakfast, tells more lies for lunch, goes to bed at night tweeting out lies and hatred, then we excuse people to take our freedoms. When we stand up and challenge our leaders and say, whatever your politics is, we are not going to stand your lies. Hang a second. We are not going to allow your oppression and hatred. You know, clearly, when you saw Donald Trump by policies he instituted, rip 3-year-old babies from the mother's arms, my friends, that's when we became Nazi Germany. That is the day we lost our blessing as a country. That is the day we lost our innocence. And that is the day that woke up God and said, you know, America is the most blessed country. You hear my words. Blessings can be blessed and blessings can be taken away. God blesses who he blesses and curses who he curses. And almost ultimately, he blesses the good and he curses the bad. I've been to countries run by bad people doing bad things, and they are ever-loving shitholes. And I've been to countries that are benevolent, and I've been to countries that have honor, and they're a really damn nice place to live. Are you so blinded by this man that you cannot see what he's doing? He didn't create millions of factory jobs. He did not stem the tide of businesses closing and leaving America. He has not brought past prosperity to America. That's just not true. It's just a bunch of sound bites. It's not real. He's brought you a bubble stock market collapse. He's brought you a labor force that's not even working full time. He has brought you less prosperity for the masses. He has brought the working man higher taxes. He has closed our doors and our businesses and has closed off investment. He has closed off growth. He has stopped progress moving forward and replaced it with coal mines, assembly lines, which make slaves of people, mindless assembly work. He has opened steel mills and aluminum smelters that are not needed in a world that has too much of them. And he has unleashed vile systems and algorithms and huge mega companies that the most people do not understand, that work day and night so that they and the ruling elite owners can make you their slave. You are going to be slaved by an algorithm. You are going to reduce to poverty, imprisoned, your wealth confiscated for you from you by artificial intelligence, and you don't even know what the hell it is. And you got some fool telling you some shit about great again with steel mills and coal mines, and no one stands up and says, what bullshit is this? Steel mines and coal mining jobs are in the poorest country on the planet. There are many countries in the world that have steel and have coal, and they don't want those dirty, low-paying, life-destroying industries in their country. So what in the hell are we doing? What line of bullshit have you bought into? Are you so full of hatred for your fellow man that you can stand by and see what our immigration policy is? It is supposed to be a policy where people can get refuge. People from oppressed countries can come to America. Are not people from Latin America truly oppressed by drug lords and corrupt leaders? How do we pretend that they are not asylum seekers? They've walked thousands of miles. They've been raped. They've been beaten. They've been starved. They've been robbed. And they come to America with nothing and look to America as beaten hope. And what do? We meet them at the border. We take their children from them and we lock them up. By God, these people should be eligible for asylum, and that's bullshit that they're destroying the economy. They are not. They are in bounce, tax-paying citizens after 2 years. They take the jobs nobody wants. They have the lowest crime rate of any ethnic group that comes into the society. This son of a bitch is feeding you so full of shit with so much false information that you don't even know what truth is anymore. And hang your head in shame. What a disgrace to America. What a disgrace to your poor, destitute, dirty, stinking relatives that came here, who were the shit of Europe, who were hated by the ruling elite, and he's so glad to get rid of them. They came here, and they cleaned toilets, and they scrubbed floors, they worked 3 jobs, and they gave you a life. And you're throwing away their memory by this piece of shit who's fostering hatred and class warfare. Every one of our ancestors was a dirty, stinking, low-life nobody. Every one of our ancestors came here with nothing. Most of them worked the shittiest, most menial jobs. Most of them suffered humiliation, oppression, and prejudice. And you know what they did? They rose above it. And because they were such hardworking people and made such great contributions, our forefathers, our immigrants, gained the respect of the country. And they gained a mission, and they gained status, and they made contributions. And they made America great. Who made America great again? The bullshit factories run by the whore corporations? America was made great again by the contributions of the low-life immigrants who fled oppression that wanted a better life, who came here to work and be honest people and pay taxes and get their kids educated. And that's what made America great again. And now we're making America ungreat. We are undoing the contribution of so many people and the suffering and the hard work and the low pay and the oppression and the prejudice of every ethnic group that ever came to America. Soon we forget because we got this Nazi Ku Klux Klan son of a bitch that is feeding you full of shit and you are sucking it up with a straw. Shame on you. Shame on every American that, well, I don't know, Donald Trump doesn't seem so bad. Fake news. Every one of you that sucks up to Hannity and the vile hatred of Judge Jeannie on Fox News and their bullshit and their spin, they are laughing as they make an asshole of you every single day with every single broadcast. Donald Trump and his family have enriched themselves in their time in power. They've broken every ethnic rule of leadership. They have not separated their assets from their dealings as politicians. And their businesses have prospered only because of cronyism, only because people that want favor with the president know they do business with his son. They do business at his resorts. They hire his lobbyists. Shame on you. You know what? If you aren't smart enough to keep your freedom, you aren't smart enough to keep your money, then you deserve to lose it.